Okay. Hey, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Good to see the Memorial Day weekend crowd here this morning. Welcome to 1111 Online. If you're watching online, we had a little bit of technical stuff happening here at the early part of this morning, but I think we're all working well, so good to have you with us. I'm going to invite everybody that's here as well as online to take and register your attendance. And if you are of a mind to also there's an opportunity there for contributing and donating. We always appreciate the continued support as we continue getting back to some kind of way of being together again here, and together there. So we're trying to do this in both ways. So it's good to be with you. Good to be with you all. I'm going to make a couple of quick announcements before the band gets us right into some music. The first thing is, if you're visiting with us for the first time, we want to be sure and send you one of these tumblers, these 1111 tumblers. There's a couple of them back there as well. For those of you who are visiting, if you're visiting and you haven't picked up one, we need to get you one. If you're here for the first time, we especially want to welcome and let you have one of these as well. The other thing I want to announce is we are still figuring out all of this as we come back to in-person, being back together in person. It's all a little bit different. We're not sure what this is all going to look like. And there'll be some things happening over the summer that are going to be interesting and will involve all of you in one way or another. And I'll tell you more about that next week on the 6th. And speaking of next week on the 6th, that's the last of our 5.5 movements of the 1111 community. Kind of what are our core values and who we are, how we see ourselves. And so today we're looking at mindfulness, but as I've titled it, we're killing time. So we'll talk about what that is. But next week is the 1/2, and that's the most interesting, I think. It will also be the Sunday after that. This will be our last time to meet in here for about a couple of weeks, because the 13th, we're going to be back online completely. Isn't that fun? So you'll show up here because you forgot I announced it, and then you'll be wondering, what happened? I guess 1111 is no more. And then you'll go home. But because we were in this pandemic, we didn't have this space rented, obviously, during that time, and obviously CTL had to do whatever they could to generate revenue and to use this space in any way they can. So they've scheduled a few things during the summer until they knew we were coming back, and then we've got the rest of the summer. But there'll be 3 Sundays during this summer that we will not be in here. The 13th of June, the 4th of July, which is going to be great because we're going to have some fun with that online, and then the 8th of August. Now, you won't remember those for now, but at least remember this one. We're going to be online completely on the 13th. So we won't be back in here until the 20th. So we'll be back here next week, skip a week, and then back on the 20th. Way too much information. I've already lost you. All right, so be looking for that, though. Just know that's going to be happening. And then the other thing is simply that in the coming weeks, you're going to be getting some stuff in the email. I hope you'll start watching your emails in the coming weeks. Or if you're not getting emails from me every week, let me know, because there's going to be some important changes happening down the road for us. And I want you all involved in that process as we explore that and get into the fall. So all of that's enough for now. It's so good to be with you here on this weekend. I hope it's been a good one for you so far, and that you've got a great day planned tomorrow for Memorial Day. Band, are we ready to kick it in or kick it off? Let's do it. All right.
Good morning, 1111 downtown. Are y'all ready to rock? Would y'all stand, please, and sing with us? We're going to do it now. This is a Peter Mayer song. We love him so much. It's called Singing a Song. Lyrics are on the screen, and we're going to do it now. Right now. We know this river always keeps flowing. We will be rowing our whole lives long. That's right. And we may never know where we're going, but we can go there singing a song. Verse 2. Just like a mother child she's holding, just like a soldier marching along, just like the faithful on Sunday morning, raising our voices, singing a song. All right. trouble comes round to grieve you, still it will leave you singing a song. Justin. Overtake us till angels mistake us for a heavenly throne, and may that joyful sound be our shelter and bind us together singing a song. We'll be together singing a song. I could almost just sing that again right now. That was so dang good. Would y'all just take a moment now, as much time as you need, and welcome one another and offer one another a sign of peace.
Do what? Look at the back. Up, up. There we go. Thank you. We're going to welcome each other now. Even though you've already welcomed each other, we're going to do it again. I thought last week our service was so beautiful. If you missed it, we're glad you're here today. But Tom talked to us about the words that we say together in here every week. And they were not these welcoming words, but he said we could take these words with us out into the world in our daily lives and live them out. And I thought that was so powerful and so beautiful, and I think we can do it with these words also when we welcome one another. So let's say them together, please. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, it doesn't matter. Ours is not a caravan of despair. Come, even if you have broken your vows 1,000 times, come yet again.
I need to push that again? Yep. All right. I'm going to tune it up here for just a second. The humidity. So we're talking about time. And in particular, we're talking about Kairos time. And Kairos, Lynn will explain a little bit of that, Kairos and Chronos, in just a minute, as Lynn Deloney is going to come up and share our Kairos time with us. But time is one of these things that kind of overwhelms us. We kind of occupy our lives all around it. We orient ourselves around it. It has more of us than we have of it in reality. And this song from James Taylor is one of my favorite. I've done this song often in here. Haven't done it in a while, but it really speaks to sort of a mantra in some ways in terms of how we experience time, what we might do with it. The secret of time is the secret of life is enjoying the passage of time. Any fool can do it. There ain't nothing to it. Nobody knows how we got to the top of the hill. Since we're on our way down, might as well enjoy the ride. The secret of love is in opening up your heart. It's okay to feel afraid, but don't let that stand in your way. Everyone knows that love is the only road. Since we're only here for a while, might as well show some style. Give us a smile, isn't it a lovely ride? We're just gliding down and we're sliding down. Try not to try too hard, it's just a lovely ride. The thing about time is that time isn't really real. It's just your point of view. How does it feel to you? Einstein said we could never understand it all. Planets spinning in space, that smile upon your face. Welcome to the human race, and isn't it a lovely ride? We're just gliding down and we're sliding down. Try not to try too hard, it's just a lovely ride. Isn't it a lovely ride? We're just gliding down and we're sliding, sliding, sliding down. Try not to try too hard, it's just a lovely ride. The secret of life is enjoying the passage of time.
We talk about time in a busy world as the chronological time, how we keep up with it. But Kairos is more about a different way of being present. And that's what this is all really about. And I think that song about falling is really about flowing in grace, I think. When we experience it and know it from within, it changes. Amazing grace, once was blind, but now I see. And we all live into that in our own way. A lot of you know, some of you know anyway, 50 years ago, I was diagnosed with cancer and went to St. Jude. That was 6 months and 50 years ago. About this time, I finally had a break and was able to go from Memphis back to Little Rock and didn't have to take the radiation and chemo, and had been really sick, lost a lot of weight. Couldn't go to school, but I could go into the backyard. And for me, it was an awakening to a different kind of time. And I think so a lot of what James Taylor's song is about is letting go of our expectations. And I had to let go of a lot and had relapse and kept learning. And I'm still learning, but it became a really powerful awakening that I wasn't isolated, I wasn't alone, I was part of something much bigger. And the birds helped me learn that, and nature all around. I think that in the song Einstein said we can't know it fully logically, but we can get a really strong sense of it as the experience of that presence that is about love. It's about healing and wholeness in ways that doesn't matter really with the details of what's going on outside of us or even inside of us. That healing is a kind of a discovery in God's presence and grace. We had a retreat online about 3 weeks ago that was a mindfulness. It was about Christian mindfulness. It's very much a part of our Christian tradition. And that was part of the retreat. We had about 65 people. And I think we'll do something like that again online through Zoom, because there are ways that we can connect with people far and wide, but at that deeper level, the experience of presence, of listening deeply, honoring and supporting the soul, which is that part that knows deeper. Our egos just get really busy and they just don't get it if that becomes what guides us. But for each of us, lifelong, the challenges, and this last year has been a big challenge, but I'm hopeful. And I say St. Jude is the patron saint of hopeless causes. So if it's hopeless, I'm still hopeful. and that we really can learn. The more that we connect with one another at that level of our knowing in our vulnerability, but knowing the power of compassion and love, then there's hope. And we can be open to notice what's emerging. There's a wonderful prayer poem that's been one of my favorite for years as well by Ganilla Norris. She has some wonderful books, Being Home and All the Ways to Be Present. And this is one of them. So hear this with your soul. Crossing the threshold. Many times today I will cross over a threshold. I hope I will catch a few of those times. I need to remember that my life is, in fact, a continuous series of thresholds. From one moment to the next, from one thought to the next, from one action to the next. Help me appreciate how awesome this is. How many are the chances to be really alive, to be aware of the enormous dimension we live within. On the threshold, the entire past and the endless future rush to meet one another. They take hold of each other and laugh. They are so happy to discover themselves in the awareness of a human creature. On the threshold, the present breaks all boundaries. It is a convergence, a fellowship with all time and space. We find you there, and we are found by you there. Help me cross into the present moment, into wonder, into your grace, that now place where we all are, unfolding as your life moment by moment. Let me live on the threshold as threshold. Amen.
Thank you, Zen Lin. Hey, y'all, we found Kevin Grove and brought him back. Y'all remember Kevin Grove? Pick it, Kevin, it's a booger. Coming down leaves a hole in the stone. Wears away the room on the finest tone, soft as a feather, but constant as the sun. There are things that only come with time. There are things that do not come with time, like knowing all the reason and the right. How love will ever come and go. There are things that time will never show. There will wait a sail into shreds. Over time will take the hair out of your head as gently as the dawning of the day. There are things time will always take away. Do not come with time, like knowing all the reason and the right. Wisdom isn't guaranteed to grow. All the time you have, can I tell you so? The years will pass with your joy and your tears. You will learn to live. You're calling all your fears. Time won't make you better, or make you worse. Time will be whatever you rehearse.
Oop, I forgot my coffee. No, I'm good. No, thank you. Have to. By the way, if you didn't get coffee, there's a lot of it back there. We're going to start doing coffee again, like we've been doing, and now we can do coffee. We can, you can purchase one of our tumblers and do it that way, or you can bring your own, and we have paper cups here for recycling, so we are going to be using these cups. And I just see Jim Miller out in the crowd there. Hey, Jim Miller, nice to see you. Yeah. Yeah, of course, one of our horn players, Jim Miller, and we've been missing you, except when we get you on video, so it's good to have you with us this morning. So I want to start off with just a couple of quick quotes here this morning that I think are fun. The first one is one by Mary Oliver. When we're thinking about time, this is the first. She says, "This is the first, the wildest, and the wisest thing that I know." Mary Oliver, the wonderful poet, passed away, I believe, about 2 years ago. "This is the first, the wildest, the wisest thing I know," she says, "that the soul exists and is built entirely out of attentiveness." I love that. The soul is built and exists, built entirely out of attentiveness. Lao Tzu, the acclaimed philosopher behind the Tao Te Ching, the ancient Chinese sacred text, he says, "Time is a created thing. To say I don't have time is like saying I don't want to." It's interesting. And then, of course, my favorite from Stephen Wright. "I went to a restaurant that serves breakfast at any time, so I ordered French toast during the Renaissance." You got to think about that one, don't you, for a second there? Yeah. Stephen Wright kind of hits you without knowing it. You're sitting there for a while. So the Hoja was going into a sanctuary, into a chapel. The Hoja, who is the wise fool of the Middle East, comes out of the Sufist tradition. Many of you have heard me tell Hoja tales before. Something in his foolishness has wisdom for us to think about. He goes into this chapel. He's been invited to speak. The place is half full. They look at him. They don't know him. Nobody had a chance to meet him. He just walks in, shows up, steps on the stage, and says, "My friends, do you know why I'm here and what I'm going to say to you?" And they look at each other and look at him, and they go, "No, we have no idea what you're going to say to us." Then he says, "Then there's no reason for me to be here," and he leaves the stage. He just walks off. Well, now they think this is a bit odd and strange, but the word gets around that he's an odd and strange guy, and he's coming back for another Sunday. So this next Sunday, the place is pretty full. And it's as if they'd rehearsed it, because when he addresses the crowd this time, he says, "My friends, good to see you. Do you know what it is I'm about to say to you this morning?" And they all said with one accord, "We know exactly what you're going to say to us." He said, "Well, then there's no reason for me to be here." And he stepped off of the stage from behind the podium. The next Sunday, his last Sunday there, was so packed, people were staring in from the outside of the window. They had the windows open. They were staring in this little chapel. It was stuffed to the gills. Everyone was curious about this strange, foolish guy who would continue to walk off from the stage, leave the pulpit without saying a word. So he looks at the crowd gathered. He's amazed. He says, "Wow, my friends, so good to see you. Do you know what it is that I am here to do, what it is that I have to say to you?" And as if they had rehearsed, the group on the right side of the room went, "Yes, we know exactly what you have to say to us." The group on the left side said, "No, we don't have any idea what you're going to say to us." They covered the bases, and he said, "Fine, if you people on my right will tell you people on my left, there's no reason for me to be here." You know what I'm about to say to you. That's the funny thing about this. We all know this stuff. Mindfulness is probably the simplest thing in so many ways. The idea of being mindful of our time seems to be one of those things that's almost trivial. It's almost ubiquitous, the way in which we talk about it now. And of course, Kairos is a major practice, one of the movements of what we do in 11:11, that intentional setting aside of the moment to be present in this very moment, to ground ourselves, to connect in some way, and to try to kind of free up our thinking a little bit. But at the same time, as much as we know this, we still struggle with the reality around us. We still struggle with the reality around us. We still struggle with what's going on in the Middle East. We still struggle with the divisiveness in our own country. We still struggle with the vote, with those who get vaccinated, those who don't get vaccinated. We still struggle with us versus them, with seeing who we are and who our tribe is versus those other people and who their tribe is. We still see ourselves in this kind of tension. And we still get anxious about what's happened in our past. We get preoccupied with that. Or we get preoccupied about whether or not we can control or have some ability to manage the future. or we worry about our kids, or we worry about our spouses, or we worry about our health, we still are preoccupied. In other words, we are never present, right? That's the truth of our reality, is we're never really here. We're always everywhere else. Somebody jarts in front of us, in the freeway, and we're all angry at that person, and we're all preoccupied with what they just did. We're not present at all in our moments. It's so hard for us to somehow remember to connect with where we are in the moment. So you could literally quite seriously say, we are rarely here. We're mostly everywhere else. We get strapped with time and we measure it out and we get lost in time. And then, of course, as I titled this, my favorite is we kill time. and even when we're just killing time, I'd have to say we probably aren't present to it. We say time is money. We say time is the essence. Time flies. What I hear most from people is, I don't have enough time, right? It just seems to slip away. There's this wonderful thing that I experienced. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but a friend always used to tell me that she would get caught in conversations with certain people, and the conversation would just start to drag at such a pace that she said, I could feel the earth rotating under me. I don't know what that's like, but that ought to be amazing. You can actually feel the earth rotate. So these three camels, and there's three people on these camels. There's a parent, a father, a mother, and a child. And they're on these camels, and they're riding across the desert. There's a fourth camel, and it's loaded up with all of their stuff. And they're going across the desert, and finally the father looks over at the child, the son, and he says, I don't know what the problem is. You've got to stop asking when we're going to get there. We're nomads. Right? That's our problem too. We cheat, well, when are we going to get there, right? When are we going to get to this? When's it going to finally be the best? When's it finally going to be the way we expect things to be? And we miss it, or we worry about it. And yet again, the reality is we're just not here. That's the thing. I'm just not here. I'm not present. How do we learn to be present in ways that transform all the other crap in our lives? Right, or all the other stuff happening around the world. How do we learn to be present in such a way? There's a great Irish joke that talks about what to do with worry. There's two ways to deal with worry, okay? So this guy goes up to this friend Mick, and his name's Patty, and Patty says to Mick, he says, so you're worried about something? And Mick says, I'm always worried about things. And so Patty says, well, there's two things to worry about. The first is to worry about whether or not you're well or whether or not you're ill. So if you're well, you've got nothing to worry about. If you're ill, you've got two things to worry about. Now, if you're ill and you've got two things to worry about, you could worry about whether or not you're going to live or you're going to die. Well, if you're going to live, you've got nothing to worry about. If you're going to die, well, then you got two things to worry about. You see the pattern here. There's always something to worry about. So you're going to worry about whether or not you're going to heaven or you're going to hell. And Patty says, no, if you're going to heaven, you got nothing to worry about. If you're going to hell, you got nothing to worry about. All your friends are going to be there waiting for you. So you got nothing, probably right. So here's the funny thing about time, right? It's this idea that it's an illusion. That Einstein and the physicists and quantum physicists have been saying that time is really a social construct. It's really a way in which we try to mark our existence, but in fact, it becomes sort of the control of our existence. We sort of allow the idea of time to dominate us. So how can we experience life in a way other than being constrained by this idea of time? And granted, we have to live according to the schedules around us, but what happens is that we begin to place the same kind of constraints on ourselves. We no longer are dealing simply with the expectations of our day. We are now placing the expectations on ourselves. We are now overwhelming ourselves with the expectations. I am completely, overwhelmingly worried that I'm not going to get finished by 11:57 and give the band their last 3 minutes before noon, right? I'm always preoccupied with when do we get started. And here we are at this place talking about how do we get present? How do we be present? How do we be here in this moment? That's the challenge that we all face. I read this thing. Let's see if I can find it here. This wonderful poem. All right. These are not my original notes, by the way. Speaking of the wonderful things about time, My actual my iPad doesn't pick up the signal here that is in the building. So I'm looking at the semi-final sermon. This is not my final notes. They're still sitting out there somewhere in cyberspace. They never made it here this morning, so it's all right. This is really a wonderful poem about how we think about time. It's called Reverse Living. Some of you may have heard this. It's written by Lynn Vance. Life is tough. It takes up all of your time, all of your weekends. And what do you get at the end of it? Death. That's the great reward. I think that the life cycle is all backwards. You should die first. Get it out of the way. Then you live for 20 years in an old folks' home. You get kicked out when you're too young. You get a fancy watch, and then you go to work. You work for 40 years until you're young enough to enter college. And then you learn to party until you're ready for high school. So you go to high school, and then you go to grade school, and you play, and you have no responsibilities. And then you become a little baby. And there's someone always taking care of you until you're back inside the womb, and you spend the last 9 months floating around free in this warm space, only to finish it all off as a gleam in somebody's eye. I think that's how I'm going to think about all my moments. I'm the gleam in somebody's eye, right? If you were just imagining that all the time, it just changes the moment. Yeah, today's kind of crappy, all right, but I'm the gleam in somebody's eye. That's really what I think we have this challenge. You know, when we read Koheleth, or Ecclesiastes, we know it as, Koheleth is the Hebrew word for teacher, or for wise one. There's this famous text, right, that we remember from the great folk song. There is a time for every season, for every purpose under heaven, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to sow, time to reap, a time to seek, a time to find, a time to live, a time to die, a time for crying, for laughing, for war, for peace. We read this text, and it's written in this context of wisdom, of the ancient wisdom tradition, but we read it as if it's saying time has these special moments, has these special periods that we find ourselves in. And we move through them as though they're sort of that phase and the next phase. But in reality, that's not what I see that he was saying at all, or she, because it could be a she that was writing that. After all the years of preaching and all the time that I've spent in seminary, I've come to see this thing as speaking more to a both-and way of understanding time. That the author here is really reminding us that these are all times. We always are in the midst of war and peace. We are always in the midst of crying and joy. We are always in the midst of tragedy and hope. We are always in the midst of the possibilities of life. I shared last week that wonderful TV series. I don't know if you started sharing. You should be binging it now before the next season comes out. Russian Doll. I mentioned that last week. But the character in Russian Doll, Nadia, who's the main character, is talking to the woman who raised her up as a friend of her mother, but also as a psychotherapist. And she asked this older woman, do you ever feel comfortable with dying? Are you ready to die? What do you think about that? And she says, yes and no. And so Nadia says, well, then how do you get to the yes so that it's always yes? And then the therapist looks at her and says, you don't. I mean, the most you can do is that when you get to that place where you can hold two completely incompatible ideas in your head, in your soul, at the same time, that's the best you can do as a human being. Good, bad, sadness, joy, life, death. When you can hold that in one space, you've really done something. That's what I think Koheleth is really saying here. Life is this reality of yeses and nos, of hopeful moments and tragic moments, of joy and sadness. But what holds us together in this reality is to remember that we are grounded in the ground of being, that we are grounded in sacredness, that we are grounded in holiness, that we are grounded in our moments, and that these moments are redemptive in ways we don't understand. That we never have the full story, right? So the challenge for us is, like as Lynn was saying, how do we experience kairos? How do we practice our lives in such a way that we can experience Kairos? I love the Henry David Thoreau quote. It's one of my favorite writers. I call him the Harvard Transcendental Vagabond. He wrote, "Time is but a stream I go fishing in." I wrote about this past week. Some of you might have read the blog. Apologize if I'm repeating myself. I was driving to work the other morning, and as I came over the Cherry Lane Bridge in the whole stream of traffic that was racing into downtown early in the morning, midweek last week, there was a sign that said, "Slow." Now, I once had a friend who reminded me there are signs all over every day all around us that remind us, pay attention. There's always signs out there that are saying, pay attention. All right, so this one said slow. And it happened to be a construction worker who was holding the sign up. And it was right there in the lane where the construction was taking place, and so cars quickly moved to their left to get out of the way. I started to pump the brake a little bit and slow down. As I did, I noticed that what I thought was a man was actually a woman, a redheaded woman. I have a particular fondness for redheaded women. I think my wife might be watching. She used to be redheaded. She had strawberry blonde hair, and of course I loved, I was always fond. I'm Irish, what can I say? My father's family had a lot of redheads. My wife's German family had a lot of redheads. I have a fondness for that, but our oldest son, our first son, was a redhead. And it just reminded me of those times where we could so easily find him in a crowd. If you have a redheaded child, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You see the mass of people. Oh, there's Tim right there. There he goes. So years later, when he went to Sweden as a part of a tour that he was doing around Europe, he went to Sweden and celebrated International Redhead Day. He sent us a picture, like so many of the thousands of redheads that are gathered there. It's a picture of the whole crowd, and underneath it says the caption that says, "Try to find me now." Right? So I look at this young woman, and I see her there, and I think, oh, it's a woman that's standing there, and she's looking at the construction workers who are doing something with rebar in the road there where they're probably going to pour some concrete. But I slowed down. The other cars kept on going. I slowed down, and as I did, I don't know if she thought I was going to honk or I was going to flirt or whatever. I mean, after all, she's looking at this old guy who's kind of slowing down to look at her, and she turns and she winks, and she kind of smiles and waves. And I kind of smile back. And I think to myself, she gets it. She knows what it means to take the moment and bring something to it, right? That's what we're invited to do, to take the moment that we have and bring life to it. And how do we do that? Well, sometimes we got to clear our heads. Sometimes we've got to connect with the very ground. We have to make contact in moments where our mind is elsewhere, when we are not present. When I worked at the Austin State Hospital, and I volunteered with one of our churches with the bridge ministries underneath the bridge. One of the things that I learned very quickly in both the hospital setting there with the mental hospital and working with people on the streets is one of the things I learned that never occurred to me at all is how important it is to be seen. How amazingly important it is just to be seen. Not in a way that says I'm afraid or I don't want to be around you or you creep me out or that I don't understand you or I'm going to move over. To be seen in a way that says I'm here and you're here. We're both here. Just that simple thing. Then followed up with a hello. And if a conversation starts, then be present. How easy it is to literally bring sacredness to our moments by simply being present to them and making contact. There's a wonderful experiment that Edwin Schrödinger did. Some of you all who are physicists or scientists know this one, Schrödinger's cat. I love this because I'm going to close with this idea, but I love this idea. Schrödinger's cat is a thought experiment, right? So that if you take the cat and you place the cat in a steel box along with a Geiger counter and with a vial of poison and a ham and a radioactive substance, that at some point that substance may go off and the cat might die. But you don't know. According to quantum physics, you can't tell if the cat's alive or dead. It all depends on who is observing the cat at any given time. Because of quantum physics, two different realities may be happening at the same time. There's no way for us to know. Isn't that amazing? And you're going like, well, that's just a stupid idea. I was doing a memorial service once for a family, one of our community families years ago. I've shared this story before, actually. The daughter in the family had committed suicide. She was a young adult. Nobody wanted to go to the funeral. Everything was bad feelings about this situation. about the individual, about the family. That was all bad feelings. You know what I'm talking about. We have these family situations too. We know what's there, right? We already know it. That's what we bring to these moments is our assumptions. We already know we know what to expect. But I said, you know what? We don't know. It's like Schrodinger's cat. You really don't know until you see. There's all sorts of possibilities in every single moment we have. And so we gathered for a small gathering, but then these friends showed up. These friends of this girl that none of the family knew. They didn't know them. And as they showed up, I asked who has anything to share. Some people tried to share some stories, some positive moments, but then the friends stood up. I remember Vicky because I was in a bad way. And Vicky came over and helped me one night when I thought I was just going to lose it. So maybe she did do a lot of drugs and she did maybe overdose, who knows, but I can tell you this, she changed my life. And then one after another, some people stood up and they shared their stories of how this girl had transformed their lives. And those stories had transformed those lives of those family members that were there. It's like Schrodinger's cat. Except that we have this deep sense of faith that says we know that all moments are redemptive. We know that there's a ground of being that takes all our moments and brings things together, but we have to be present to play. We have to be present to participate. And how do we do that? Simple. We make connection. We take a deep breath in the most stressful moments and we let it out. And when we hear the anxiety thought, the anxious thoughts, we take a deep breath and then we let them out. And we just remind ourselves, we don't know. We don't know. I just need to get grounded, so I'm going to feel my feet on the ground. I'm going to feel my hands tingling. I'm going to feel my heart beating slowly. I'm going to take another breath. How nice. I'm going to let it out. And we just continue to do that until we are not over there, or we are not out here, or we are not back there, but we're right here in this moment. And then we have the opportunity to do something amazing. To be curiously open to what we didn't see. And I guarantee we'll see something we didn't expect. Every time, make contact and curiously open. That's the invitation that Kairos gives us. And in the process, we find this unity with things. I think the band's going to do this great song by Trevor Hall. Every month or so, the band's going to do a video because you guys got addicted to these amazing videos that Brad Thompson would do. You guys online get to see it as well. So I said, Brad, guess what? You get to keep doing them. Even though we're meeting in person, band, you guys get to keep doing these videos every now and then because you're too awesome. So they did this wonderful song, Unity. How do we experience this unity? It's that moment of Kairos that we're invited to in every opportunity. Like Schrodinger's cat, we're invited to make something real simply by, isn't this amazing? Being present. Simply by being present, we're invited to bring life to life. Let's play it.
Together, pluck me from the crowd and return me to my center. Whatever path you follow, push on till tomorrow. Love all, serve all, create no sorrow. So many rivers, but they all reach the sea. They're telling me it's different, but I just don't believe it. Love is so glorious and everyone's so reach. Whoever seeks, seen and unseen. I don't want to reason anymore about the one I love, the one I love. I don't want to reason anymore about God above, God above. I just want to melt away into all His grace, drift away to that sacred place where there's no more you and me, no more they and we, just unity, just unity, just unity, just unity. Well, I don't want to count the leaves of the mango tree. I just want to taste its sweetness so you can defeat this above and beneath this. Yeah, come one and all, come stand tall. Whatever your approach, dance or meditation. If you got love alone, then you shall reach the station. Your final road, the supreme abode. In this city, our hearts shine like gold. Don't want a reason anymore about the one I love, the one I love. I don't want a reason anymore about God above, God above. I just want to melt away into all His grace, drift away to that sacred place where there's no more you and me, no more they and we, just unity, just unity, just unity, unity. Me and Jesus, Buddha, Moses, and Garuda all dance around, dancing on your thunder, drunk on the wine of love for thee. Tell me, when will I be blessed to join the blissful company? Blissful company goes from sea to sea, from the depths of the valley to the mountain peaks. So many stories and so many fables of how the king sings and how the wild wails. In Jerusalem to the holy Himalayas, from Mount Zion to the hills of Jamaica. All land is holy, all land is sacred. All shall leave this world completely naked, completely naked, completely. I don't want a reason anymore about the one I love, the one I love. I don't want a reason anymore about God above, God above. I just want to melt away into all His grace, drift away to that sacred place where there's no more you and me, no more they and we. I don't want a reason anymore about the one I love, the one I love. I don't want a reason anymore about God above, God above. I just want to melt away into all His grace, drift away to that sacred place where there's no more you and me, no more they and we, just unity. Where there's no more you and me, no more they and we, just unity. Yeah. Where there's no more you and me, no more they and we, just unity. Just unity. Just unity. Yeah. Just unity, just unity, just unity, just unity, just unity.
Oh my gosh, the band is so talented and it's so much fun. It just was hard to give up watching them do such great work on the video as well. It's fun to see them here in live, but it's just so remarkable to see them also do that stuff. It brings out a whole different way of experiencing it. Thank you, Brad. Thanks, band. You guys are awesome. You really are. And thank you for doing. They're going to do that every month or so, every 4 weeks or so. They're going to give us a surprise video. So July 4th is going to be an amazing Sunday. It'll be online. We won't be in here, as I said, but it's going to be an amazing Sunday of music as well. So, so this week, just try this week. Just try to be present. You know, try to be here and now. But what I want to encourage you is to think in terms of the magic you can bring to moments simply by making contact with the moment, with our breath, letting go of whatever the other stuff is. Just letting it go, acknowledge it, say hello, nice, you know, like Rumi's guest house, you know, you invite him in. Oh, yeah, that's that ugly nightmare that I have. Hi, how you doing? And just, you know, welcome, but then let it go with the breath. And then open up curiously to see what else is there. You start bringing magic to the moments with Kairos. Bless you. We'll see you again next week. We'll be back in here on the 6th as we have one last Sunday, and then we'll be off on the 13th. So I look forward to seeing you all next Sunday. Look forward to seeing you all. God bless.